Well, good morning, church. Thank you so much for being here. We are so happy to have you here today. Just thank you, worship team, for that great song, especially in the middle there, Weep With Me, God. I think that's so pertinent to not only what we're discussing today, but just what we're dealing with in the larger picture of the world right now. So today we're going to be doing our young adult teens panel, also known as the under 30 panel. And I wanted to introduce our friends, Edgar Chavez, Joel Jung, Julia Martin, Ryan Nixon, and Sarah Lowry Shepherd. So thank you all for being here today. I wanted to start out today's panel with a reflection on Exodus 17, 1 through 7. So thank you guys for being here. I'm going to go ahead and share screens and then we'll come back to our panel, but just wanted to reflect on this lament that the Israelites experienced in Exodus. The whole Israelite community set out from the desert of Sin, traveling from place to place as the Lord commanded. They camped at Rephidim, but there was no water for people to drink. So they quarreled with Moses and said, "Give us water to drink." Moses replied, "Why do you quarrel with me? Why do you put the Lord to the test?" But the people were thirsty for water there, and they grumbled against Moses. They said, "Why did you bring us up out of Egypt to make us and our children and livestock die of thirst?" Then Moses cried out to the Lord, "What am I to do with these people? They are almost ready to stone me." The Lord answered Moses, "Go out in front of the people, take with you some of the elders of Israel, and take in your hand the staff with which you struck the Nile, and go. I will stand there before you by the rock at Horeb. Strike the rock, and water will come out of it for the people to drink." So Moses did this in the sight of the elders of Israel, and he called the place Massah and Meribah, because the Israelites quarreled and because they tested the Lord, saying, "Is the Lord among us or not?" So in this passage, we see how the people of Israel were faithful to God's leading. So when they followed God to a place where there was no water, it's understandable that they looked back at what they had in Egypt and questioned why they were told to leave in the first place. When we're trying to be faithful in following God, we won't necessarily see how he's providing for us in the particular moment. Sometimes it looks like he's led us to a place with no water, and this leads to frustration and fear. So our panelists today are young adults and teens who, like all of us, are doing their best to be faithful in a season where we're missing out on a lot of the things that we used to enjoy. Our teens and 20s in particular are all about discovering our identity. And this is so difficult to do when we're isolated and stuck at home. So to start, we'll have each of the panelists introduce yourselves. I'll call on you each by name, and then you can unmute yourselves. Tell us your name, your age, what you're studying or doing for work, and anything else you want us to know about you. So we'll go ahead and start with Edgar.
Hi, good morning. My name is Edgar. I'm 28. I'm studying cybersecurity, master's program at Dominguez Hills, and I'm currently information security administrator at Allied Universal.
All right, next, Joel, can you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, yes, I'm Joel. The only reason I agreed to do this is because the church staff still considers me to be young. So I just made the cutoff. I'm 29 years old. Currently working as an admin for a company called Spigen. It's not what I'm planning on doing for the rest of my life, but it's, currently working towards something else that I'm more passionate about. But yeah, that's what I do.
All right, Julia, go ahead.
I'm Julia. Getting some feedback, but I've been part of this community for, let's see. Testing. Pastor Jay?
Julia, we'll come back to you and while we work out the technical difficulties there. So Ryan, can you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Ryan Nixon. I'm 13 years old in 8th grade, and I've been a part of the church from the start.
All right, and Cece?
Hi, my name is Sierra. I like to go by Cece. I'm 26. I'm currently a student at Biola, and I'm new. I've actually never met any of you in person, so I'm really grateful to be here.
Yeah, actually, we're going to be meeting for the first time in person next week. So it'll be exciting to meet you finally, if you can make it. And it looks like Julia's back now. So Julia, can you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Julia. I'm 24 and I'm a first year teacher this year.
Great. All right, thanks everyone. So the first question we wanted to talk today was specifically about identity and how you feel that your identity is either being shaped, formed, changed, or being further affirmed in the experiences that you've had during COVID. So again, we'll go through alphabetical order. Edgar, can you speak to this topic about how your identity is changing or being affirmed through COVID?
Yeah, so before COVID, I was lacking confidence. I was a little timid just because I was getting out of the military. Being a civilian, no one tells you what to do next. So I was starting a new career, and I've basically found my way. I found this church, and try to become a part of it, and it's definitely helped with all that. And yeah, I'm doing better now for it.
How is that transition of coming out of the military and coming into civilian life? Can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah, so being in the military, you've definitely got the opportunity to go to school. It's just a little hard going, place to place, and I managed to complete my school to prepare me for civilian life, and luckily I chose a good profession that has stuck around so far during COVID. So it's just you just got to stay focused. That's pretty much what it is, and yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of us who are working from home or studying from home or studying remotely can identify with that, just how difficult it is to stay focused when oddly enough, you're at home and you think you can focus more, but there's just so much going on that can pull your attention away. So thanks for sharing that, Edgar. Okay, so Joel, can you speak to how your identity is being shaped during this time?
Yeah, I think for me, it's been really difficult because I'm kind of I lean on people, and I'm very just spending time with people who I care about, and just being around friends and family. It's always super important for me. And obviously with COVID, with that changing everything, it's been really difficult because I find that I'm in my own thoughts a lot more now, obviously just being alone and being at home all the time, and not being able to talk to people and see people as much. It's a lot of my past traumas and hurts that I went through that are rearing its head a lot more than before. It's kind of crazy that I'm here doing this, because it's I have a really, really hard time opening up about just my struggles, just specifically my past hurts and trauma and stuff. But when Nan first messaged me and asked me if I wanted to be on this panel, I didn't respond right away. I was because my first thought was no way, I'm not. It's way out of my comfort zone, and I'm not ready to do this. But I kind of thought on it. I prayed on it a lot, and the one thing I love about that we do this Lament series is that I think this is part of this in all of us. When we hear other people sharing about their struggles and what's going on in their life, it makes it easier to open up yourself, And so I remember specifically when we did the Lament series back in 2019, that was before COVID, where we did a similar setup like this, where Dave was running a panel, and we had like different people sharing every week, sharing about like their life story and their struggles. And yeah, I remember going through that. I remember like Tommy shared first, and then like each week as someone else shared, it was like more and more I felt like God was like putting on my heart, tugging at my heart to share as well. But there's still always that struggle. Like for me, I hear, other people's struggles and stories, and there's that side of me that is like, oh man, it's like really good, and I should open up about my struggles too. But then at the same time, there's this other struggle where like the enemy is feeding me this lie, and this lie that I cling on to way easily. It's like that my story is like not worth sharing. Like I'm not worthy of, I have no right to share about what I went through because I feel like other people have gone through like a lot worse than me, which I know is not the right way to, not the right mindset to have, but that's like something I'm always struggling with. But yeah, it was around that time, I remember after Elliot shared, won't go into any details, but for those of us who were there, Elliot shared, and that was when I was like, okay, it's time to like open up about my struggles and what I went through. And so, yeah, leading into this question, before COVID, I was just very hard on myself, very down on myself all the time, like thinking that I have no worth and that I have no right, to basically share and open up. And being in COVID definitely reaffirmed that I need help and that I need support and that I need Jesus. I know that's very cliche to say, but yeah, again, just being in my own thoughts and just being all these things coming back a lot more has been really tough for me.
I just wanted to affirm, Joel, your voice is very much valued at our church. I love whenever you lead worship. I can just feel a deeper connection to God when you do lead. And I know that's not the same as sharing, but just wanted to thank you for being able to be on this panel and to talk through some of the stuff with the church. Because I think we really do all learn from each other when we can hear each other give language to the things that we might be struggling with ourselves. Was there anything else you wanted to say, Joel?
No, we'll get into further questions and we'll see where it goes.
Okay. Yeah, of course. Okay, so Julia, can you speak to how your identity is being formed through COVID?
Yeah, so just to kind of echo what Joel said, I'm more of like a quiet person, and especially during COVID when we were all kind of distanced from people even more so, I was definitely more in my thoughts and kind of not able to like experience the community as much. Yeah, and I think it really affirmed in my identity that I do need to connect to other people. I need to share my experiences. And it's like you don't really know who you are unless you know like who you are in a community. And so like if I'm by myself, I can't really be myself. And I really relied on my family a lot during this time. I was like staying at home with them. And yeah, I think as a 20-something, I'm kind of getting my identity as a teacher and like, what is my career going to be? And it's just really important to have other voices speaking into me. So I'm really trying to share more these days.
Yeah, I really love that. We don't know who we are unless we understand who we are in community. That's so, so true. Thanks, Julia. Brian, can you go ahead and share what you're dealing with and how your identity is being formed?
Yeah, so I think for me and the millions of kids who are my age, quarantine has taken away from a time to grow up, kind of. So for me, I started quarantine like in 7th grade, and then I'll be in high school really soon. And so that transition period where I'm supposed to be like forming who I am and learning and growing and developing social skills, and all of that has been taken away, to which I have to just jump into a whole new type of living in the schooling, like without any preparation. And it's that way for a lot of kids right now. And I think quarantine's just taken away from like our ability to grow when we don't have outlets and we don't have places to be ourselves because we're stuck at home. And that looks different for everyone because everyone's going to grow into a different person. But like for me, I'm such a complete extrovert. So to not be around people and to have to stay at home and to not be growing to be the best version of me that I can be, it's taking away from that. And so that's just been really hard, and just trying to figure everything out without the resources that most people get. So, yeah.
Yeah, thanks for, again, putting language to what so many kids are experiencing right now. So really looking forward to hearing more from you, and hopefully our kids who are watching at home can just relate to what you're saying too, Ryan. All right, so last but not least, Cece.
Yeah, so this question was hard for me. I was like, my identity, oh man. And at first I just wanted to keep it to my roles changing because my roles have changed and I've gone through a lot of change this last year. When the pandemic first started, I was working full-time as a clinical mental health counselor and in Massachusetts. And I like found myself struggling because it's like, this is new, right? So my clients are coming in and they're having these like major fears and like upticks in what's going on with, like anxiety and depression. And I'm like, yeah, bro, me too. Like I don't know how to separate myself from this. And so I was really grateful. I got to come back to California and start a new program. And so it kind of like, I'm exempt because I honestly don't know if I would have been able to continue like working with the full caseload and navigating the pandemic. So that's why for me, it's more like my roles, I guess, have changed. As far as identity, I noticed I was really struggling in my faith community back in Massachusetts. And now being here and being at One Life, I'm not struggling. I don't know anyone. And so it's been really great to be a part of like mustard groups. And I know like Pastor Jay and Pastor Elliot and Pastor Dave have reached out. And so I've been able to like kind of connect, but it still feels rather disconnected. And that's no fault of anyone's. It just is at this point. And so that's something that's carried throughout with my identity, is feeling disconnected from community just in different ways. And that's been challenging.
Yeah, well, we're really glad that you found our community, and I'm glad that you're part of our mustard group too. It's been really great getting to know you more. And hopefully with us going back to church next week, we'll continue to build that community. So for this next question, I was hoping that this would be more of a conversation rather than each person speaking individually. So if you can all unmute yourselves, and let's just talk about this next question, which is, have you felt the most misunderstood or overlooked this past year? Feel free to ask each other questions. Yeah, and just to affirm and encourage each other.
So for me, again, dealing with my career, it's really my focus. I reached out to my boss to see about an open analyst position, and I was only in my current role for about 4 months at the time, so maybe I was overreaching, but he didn't feel it was time yet. I guess he wanted to see what my work ethic was like, and so last month he actually brought me in and explained to me that he's noticed what I've done and how I do things, and that April next month I'll be taking on that new role. So it took a year. What I felt to be overlooked was actually some of him, like, just to test me, I guess. And so as long as you stay focused, things will happen. You know, you pray to God and you know, keep your faith. And I mean, it works out in the end. So, yeah.
Yeah,
Was
that
it?
must have been super frustrating. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just wondering if that was challenging, especially given last year your new like role as a civilian, if that was really challenging feeling overlooked for that amount of time.
Yeah, the most challenging part I feel is the internal feelings you get. Like, am I doing enough? Am I doing am I doing good? Because if not, this is not going to turn out well. So it's just dealing with that internal struggle, really.
Yeah.
The job is technical, but I mean, I've been doing it for like 10 years now, so I've got experience with that. It's just convincing others to see the value in yourself is that's the hard part, and that's what I was, you know, struggling with the most. And I pray to God about to, you know, assist me with, and just, you know, put me where I need to be. Yeah.
I think a way that I feel overlooked is that I feel like I'm just expected to be okay. Like I was a therapist. I'm a graduate student. I like have all these roles where it's like, yeah, like you're fine, right? Like you're okay. And I'm like, I'm not okay. Most days I am, but days I'm not, like I'm not. And so that's the way I think I feel overlooked is it's like I'm struggling in a lot of ways. Like I'm like so full. So yeah, that's a way for me.
I totally feel that too. I feel the same way. The way I feel kind of overlooked or misunderstood. It's not anyone else's fault but my own, but just, yeah, like my emotional, mental health. I think because with COVID, it was easy to use it as an excuse for me, like, to like kind of fall back behind the curtain and be like, oh, you know, not be open and just not have to talk about things with people just because, you know, that disconnect of even though we're able to see each other virtually or like things like that, just not being person to person, it was very easy for me to like use that as like a shield, you know? And yeah, I was not healthy, but that's that's what was happening for me.
And I think I've kind of lucked out in that sense because I can uh, now I'm back in California and I have my family local. So I mean, I think that's definitely helped me out, just going to see my siblings and whatnot. Um, I don't know if you have siblings, Joel?
I do. I have one sister.
One sister? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's still a lot of things you can do. I mean, hit me up.
I think for me, and again, just so many kids I think are going through a lot of the same thing where everyone around them who's supposed to be sort of like a leader or a mentor, whether that's their teacher or their parents or someone at their church, like knows what's happening and knows why it's hard for the kids, but they aren't equipping them with anything. I think a lot of teachers right now are, you know, especially at the beginning, they were like, oh, like we understand what's happening, we understand why this is hard, we feel for you, we have compassion for you, but then they continue to try and make it as normal as possible. And when it's not normal, there's nothing you're gonna be able to do to make it good or to make it like it was before. You have to try and make it better and match up with what's happening right now. And I think for a lot of kids, they're not given the equipment and the resources and the skills that they need right now to still succeed and to still grow. And I think, yeah, for me, it's just it's like things are just they're trying to make it normal, and it's not, and so that's not like helping.
Okay. Yeah, I really agree that nothing like is quite the same. Everything had to be adjusted, and everyone's trying to find new ways to connect. But I feel like in person, nothing can really replace it. Zoom doesn't replace it, and it's really valuable to have other people like speaking into your life in person as well, because I was trying to make a decision about like my job and my relationships too. I was working on building those sorts of things, and it was just really difficult to do when nobody is easy access. I mean, Zoom, and then like if you want to see them, you have to put on a mask, and everybody's just kind of adjusting in that period. So.
Just going off script a bit here. So speaking to what Julia was talking about with how difficult it is to connect with people because of, I guess, all the barriers to that right now. What are some ways that you guys are finding that have been helpful in connecting with people, and what kind of ways have not been helpful? Like I know a lot of us are kind of Zoom fatigued right now. Like Joel, I know you guys were playing D&D for a bit there. Is that something that kind of was speaking your heart language as far as connecting with people?
Sure. I'm a huge geek. I love D&D and just like board games in general. But yeah, I think, yeah, just even doing things that, obviously we can't meet up and be in person as much. But yeah, just being able to do just little things like that where we're able to safely meet, and even just, yeah, if it's like playing a game or like talking about like sports or something, it's like just being, that's like part of our normal lives that we can like try to hang on to, and try to keep even in these crazy weird times. But yeah, definitely things like that.
And I just realized the time too. So since we are, it's 11:08 right now. So I'll just go ahead and lead into the next question that everyone prepared for, which is, what are some unexpected blessings that you've experienced during COVID? So again, go ahead and talk amongst yourselves, and church will listen in.
I don't know if this is from COVID, but I still feel blessed by it. One is like just the season of life I get to be in. Like I was getting pretty fatigued being a full-time mental health counselor and wanting to move into helping just in a different way. And so just getting to be back in California and getting to be at Biola has been like a blessing. And also going back to school, like the finances, like I know I'll have to pay for it later, but I'm exempt from the economy right now, which like that's actually a really big blessing. I would have had work, which would have been great. But I also like my mental health would have just, I don't know, I would need different support than what I had. So being back here has been like really lovely and a blessing. And it just also happened to be COVID time. So I think it made that blessing extra sweet for me.
Yeah, for me, it's having not gotten COVID. That's a blessing. Having my wife Brianna as my support through this whole thing, because she definitely helped me straighten up a couple times. School, definitely, having gotten into the master's program and then just having homework to focus on versus just time in the house without anything to do. And I mean, again, my promotion that I didn't expect, really. I was just thinking like maybe this isn't the place it'll be at, but we'll see what happens. And yeah, I mean, a lot of things turned up. So grateful.
Yeah, I think that's a huge blessing not catching COVID. I think especially for me too, because my parents are very at high risk, not only because of their age, but they have like a lot of underlying health conditions. So like I know this sounds kind of negative, but like when we're in the thick of it, I was like honestly surprised that my parents didn't catch it, just because they're both going to work. Especially my dad, he owns like his own water store, so it's like, customers coming in. Now obviously we have all the rules and mask and everything and staying distant, but like that was like a huge worry this whole time. And like the fact that none of us, like our whole family, hasn't caught it, it's just been a blessing. Another unexpected blessing for me was, just being asked to step up more in roles here at church on like Sundays. I say unexpected because it was like, it's like Nan, like you shared earlier, like I have such a hard time like accepting compliments, and like even when like someone thanks me for something, it's like I just feel like super awkward, and like I try to like deflect it. So with like, being asked to, Tom asked me to lead worship more, and Elliot asked me to step into the AV lead. And like it was unexpected because I was like, oh man, I don't even know if I'm ready for this, or if I'm worthy of doing this, if I'm qualified or anything. But just getting back into that rhythm, like at my previous churches, like I was always super involved, whether it was worship or just being part of like leadership teams. So I stepped away from that for a while, and then even when I first started coming here to One Life, I was kind of like in this funk where I was, just not really involved physically, and just, emotionally, I wasn't really invested. But definitely, being asked to step up more and getting back into that rhythm has been a huge blessing for me.
So for me as well, I've been kind of asked to take on more roles in the community, working on the newsletter, and joining the staff meetings, and being a part of the community in that way, which has been kind of a little out of my comfort zone, but also a great chance to connect. So that's been a blessing.
So unfortunately, it looks like we lost Ryan. So when she gets back on, we'll catch up with her on her answer to this question. Thank you so much, everyone, for, just, sorry, the dog. There were some blessings that you guys mentioned that I never even thought of before. And Edgar, I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that they were thankful for homework. So
Yeah.
I hope the teachers of our church feel grateful for that compliment. So this last question, I wanted to open it up to the whole church. So if you are on Facebook Live right now, go ahead and type your questions, any follow-up questions that you have for any of the panelists, and I'll go ahead and read them out loud. But this next question is, what are some ways the church can care well for each of you during this time? And just to give an example of how caring well can look, for me, I really appreciate when people send me worship songs and scripture to reflect on. I'm not always great about responding to people. I'm just not that comfortable expressing my emotions in text, but I just really do appreciate it when people do that for me, and it just makes me feel very loved and very cared for. So with that, if anyone wants to share, and then again, church, if you're on Facebook Live, feel free to type any questions into the chat and we'll open it up to the panel too.
Yeah, I'm totally in the same boat as you, Nan. I'm really appreciative when, people text me and just like, hey, how are you doing? But like, it's the same thing, not just through text, even like in person. Like I shared earlier, I have like such a hard time expressing my emotions. And so like, but even just getting, simple messages like that, see how you're doing. And it's really good, even though I have a hard time expressing it all the time. But it's definitely a blessing to have that.
Yeah, I think getting invites to things, place, even if you can't make it, still nice to be invited. Yeah.
And I also echo that I appreciate when people send Bible verses and worship songs, because then I know that they're kind of also like worshiping with me in a way. And I like recommending songs to people too, and I feel appreciated when they appreciate that.
Yeah, I also appreciate like a text check-in, but I can't guarantee that I'll text back. Not because I don't want to, just because I'm like doing a bunch of other stuff. I also really appreciate words of affirmation, and just like seeing like, girl, you are grinding. Like you get that grind. Like, go ahead, girl. Like, thank you. So yeah, words of affirmation, I think for me.
And yay, Ryan's back. So Ryan, we didn't get a chance to hear from you about what's been an unexpected blessing for you during COVID. So feel free to talk about that. And then also, how can the church care well for you during this time?
Okay, so an unexpected blessing, I think for me, is just I just started being myself again at the beginning of COVID, like right when it shut down. I kind of shut down too, and it was really just a horrible time just because I wasn't seeing people. I'm like such an extrovert. That's what gives me life. I wasn't seeing people. I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't going to anything. There's nothing to do. I just shut down. It was really horrible. And I think I didn't know how long this would last. So technically, I could have been in that horrible state for a really long time. So I'm just really thankful that it's a lot better now. I think it's a little sad because I have now accepted this as the way of life. This is the way things work. COVID is how things are, but it's got like just a whole lot better, and I'm just really thankful for that. And then I think I really like just interaction. I like engagement. I like being around people. So when I have friends who reach out to me, or when I go do things, or just when anyone reaches out with me and engages with me, interacts with me, when I'm having that sort of like time, I think I really enjoy that, and it's really uplifting for me.
Was there anything in particular, Ryan, that you think helped make you feel better, or was it just time? Yeah, any thoughts on that?
I think it was time. I also started like I became like better friends with a couple people. But I also think it was just time. I think I just need time to sort of accept the quality of life, and like how I can stay happy and stay true to myself, and what I can do to that time through that time, and just that maturity and self-reflection and trying to figure out what's happening there.
Great. So I think I'll put out one last call for the church if anyone had any questions for the panelists on how they can care for them better, or any other questions that you had. I know there's a bit of a lag, so we'll just wait a couple. How is this time for you all while we're waiting for questions to come in?
This time? What do you mean by this time?
Yeah, just this time of talking to each other and hearing about what you've been struggling with, hearing about what's been going well. Has it been helpful? Do you have any things to think about?
Yeah, I think it's really kind of uplifting seeing people be vulnerable, because we're all going through the same problem, but we have different struggles within that. It's not everyone is having the same struggles within COVID as me, and I'm not having the same struggles within COVID as everyone. So it's really interesting to just hear different perspectives and where that's taking people.
Yeah, I mean, it feels good to put it out there just so that others are aware. so they don't feel alone in their own struggle.
Can I just say, Ryan, I want to be like you when I grow up. Like, holy cow.
Thank you so much.
That was the one question we got on Facebook so far is, are you sure that Ryan's actually in 8th grade? She's so articulate.
Yes, I am. I am 13 years old in 8th grade.
I know here, I was not doing that when I was 13.
You.
So did anyone have any closing thoughts that anyone wanted to say before we close out today? Okay, well, again, thank you guys so much for being willing to be on this panel and being willing to just open your lives to the church. I was definitely blessed by this time, and I'm sure the church was too. So thank you again. With that,